Tonight, America threatens to hit Iran 20 times harder if they continue to stop the flow of oil. Barrage of bombs hit Iran's cities overnight as the conflict entered its 11th day.
Today will be, yet again, our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes.
That's as a British warship, HMS Dragon, finally heads towards Cyprus to protect the UK's military interests there. Israel's ghost towns, we visit the communities on the front line of the war with Hezbollah. As across the border, we hear how the death of one man in southern Lebanon spurred his entire village to flee. Plus, the chaotic final moments before Iran's women's football team began their journey home, leaving some of their teammates behind. That's all coming up on The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Good evening from Doha, the capital of Qatar. If you continue along the Persian Gulf, you'll eventually come to the Strait of Hormuz. It's a shipping choke point, 24 miles wide at its narrowest point. 1/5 the global oil passes through it. And that's why Iran has been bombing vessels trying to sail through. Some are still taking the risk. Others change their destination or turn off their tracking. Donald Trump has even promised naval escorts because this waterway is integral to the global economy. And that leads me to the question I've been asking myself today. Can Donald Trump actually end what he started? In fact, does he even know what his endgame is? Well, since the first American missile struck 11 days ago, we've heard wildly varying accounts of his timeline and his war aims. Just have a listen.
Right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it.
We've decimated their whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a little while.
We took a little excursion because we felt we had to do that to get rid of some evil. And I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion.
Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to...
soon.
Well, the truth is the timing is well off. No one at the White House wants a surge in energy prices when the cost of living is in such a major issue for voters ahead of the midterm elections. And the man leading the armed forces actually admitted today that Iran is a more formidable opponent than he anticipated. So what if Tehran finds a way to keep its missiles firing? Will Donald Trump chicken out, retreat, then declare a hollow victory? And if so, what would that mean for this region? We'll discuss that tonight, but let's get started with our first report from David Blevins in Washington.
US troops taking out Iranian missiles. Showdowns in the sky are a daily occurrence now.
We stay locked on the target because here at the Department of War, that's our job.
The Defense Secretary addressing concerns about how long this war could go on for.
This is not endless. It's not protracted. We're not allowing mission creep. The president has set a very specific mission to accomplish. And our job is to unrelentingly deliver that. Now, he gets to control the throttle. He's the one deciding, he's the one elected on behalf of the American people when we're achieving those particular objectives.
Iran says it's fighting back. These pictures from state television. One official urged Donald Trump to be careful he wasn't eliminated himself. But the president says the US has completely destroyed 10 Iranian mine-laying boats. The Pentagon had warned that the most intense strikes yet were being composed.
This beautiful symphony of American spirit is the definition of perfectly organized chaos.
But here on Capitol Hill, that beautiful symphony, well, it sounds a bit out of tune. Democratic members of Congress left the latest classified briefing telling us they had more questions than answers.
It is solely the responsibility of the United States Congress to declare war. Make no mistake, this is Trump's war. He says it every day. They can couch it however they want.
The Trump administration cannot explain the reasons that we entered this war, the goals we're trying to accomplish, and the methods for doing that.
So, in 6 weeks' time, as stated last week, or very soon, when does the White House expect this to end?
Ultimately, the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
But it's images like these, the latest dignified transfer of one of America's fallen, that will add to the urgency for a government that's now ending war briefings with a plea for divine intervention.
May the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them and our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them. And amen.
David Blevins, Sky News in Washington.
Let's go straight to Washington and speak with our James Matthews. And James, again today we've seen a series of tweets on social media, social posts rather, on Truth Social from the president talking about the Strait of Hormuz and concerns about mines being laid. He's since updated it and talked about, well, I'll just have a read of this tweet or this post that he put out. He said, "I'm pleased to report that within the last few hours we've hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mines that have been laid out." That was one of the things that Donald Trump said.
Yeah, his response is one clearly of deep concern. It's in response to reports that we've had, Yalda, of Iran beginning to lay mines in that waterway. Famously, 1/5 of the world's crude oil supply is transported through the Strait of Hormuz. The presence of mines would clearly be a complication, to say the least. Complicated for Trump. With oil prices already increasing, it's a significant factor for him going forward. Implications for the global economy, implications and potential damage, of course, for him here at home. It remains an unpopular conflict with Americans. His awareness and that concern, it's laid bare in his performance, his posts on Truth Social. Let me read you one from a little bit earlier. This predates the one you've just touched on, Yalda. He said this, Trump, this was a threat to Iran. "If Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction." The words of the president a short while ago.
Yeah, I mean, James, the question is, are the Revolutionary Guard even listening or paying attention, or are they just following their pre-planned position in all of this? And of course, in the last week, James, I mean, you and I have spoken about the fact that the narrative around why they attacked Iran has changed a number of times. But today there was an attempt for a more kind of aligned series of messages about why this war began.
That's right, Yalda. There's been no presentation to the American public at large about the specifics in all of this. And Democrats are furious. I was on Capitol Hill today. They were given a classified briefing. What they have said, and indeed there's a letter being sent by senior Democrats to Donald Trump today asking for the key players to come to Congress and to explain themselves, explain their decision-making in public. That so far has been resisted. So what we've had, and you heard it in David's piece, are Democrats being invited to classified briefings. They cannot discuss the detail, but they can discuss their general feelings. And that's why you heard Elizabeth Warren and others saying that they're concerned, more concerned than they have ever been at where this is all going, concerned as well about a timeline and where the end game is. In terms of a timeline, interestingly, Yalda, there was a White House briefing today, and maybe we got a clue. Caroline Levitt was asked about it. When is this all going to end? She says, well, in the beginning, we were looking at 4 to 6 weeks. The military objectives are being executed ahead of time. Perhaps, just perhaps, a hint from the White House press secretary.
Yeah, absolutely, that this may be wrapped up much sooner. James, thank you so much. Well, let's focus more closely now on the Strait of Hormuz. It's a superhighway for oil tankers, and today the White House accused Iran of using it to hold the global economy hostage. Here's our data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire on how some ships are making it through.
A war that spread to multiple countries, thousands of targets hit, but now the focus is on one tiny 24-mile stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz, and the giant implications it has for the global economy. Iran is saying, expel Israeli American ambassadors, you can use the straits. Donald Trump says that ships should just show a bit of guts and go through it. Well, we've been charting the ships that have been doing just that, the surprising tactics they're using and who Iran is letting through. Before the war, this was a superhighway for cargo and oil tankers. When the shooting started, though, it came to a standstill. And that was before the Iranians even declared they had closed the straits. They stopped going there because of the danger, and this shows why. United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations has tracked direct strikes and attacks on ships in the straits. At its smallest point, this is only just wider than the Strait of Dover, so there are not many places to hide. And this up here is the risk they run, a US crude oil tanker. It wasn't carrying any cargo, and according to the company, it had a contract with Iraq's state oil marketer. It was heading to an Iraqi terminal. An unmanned surface vessel, a USV, basically a drone ship, appears to strike it while it was moored in the North Persian Gulf, and this is the aftermath of that. Now, despite all of that, though, we've identified ships that have made the dangerous journey. It is not a lot, especially compared to what came before. You can see that over here. Ever since the war started, there have been just 13. And these are mainly Iranian and Chinese-owned ships, the countries most represented, and that is what you would expect. Iran isn't going to stop its own ships, and China has a close relationship. But this new data provided by Lloyd's List shows that most of the tankers being allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz since the war broke out, 8 out of 13, are from the so-called shadow fleet here in green. These are ships with opaque ownership, and they turn their identification off to avoid detection. And Lloyd's believe the number is likely to be even higher. We'll get into why that is in a moment. Because it isn't just banned shadow fleet ships that are getting through. We've also identified some from the UAE, from Germany, and from Greece. This is one, the Parallel, that threaded the needle, an oil and chemicals tanker that transited through the Strait of Hormuz on the 7th of March. It had its identification turned on throughout. It has links to India and the UAE as well. But others are using different tactics, turning their transponders off during the transit, making them more difficult to track. This shows one ship, the Rosanna here, not part of the shadow fleet. The dotted line is where it isn't broadcasting its identity, presumably to avoid being targeted. Now, it's gone dark between 1:02 p.m. on the 8th of March and just after 10 p.m. on the same day, while it was braving the strait. Some ships are using different tactics, though. Transponders can also declare a ship's destination. We found that several ships are changing their destination to say things like China owner and all crew over here. Effectively, this ship is saying as loudly as possible, this is a Chinese boat, let us through. We weren't able to independently verify the nationalities of crew members aboard these ships. But this is just a small group of thousands of ships that have been redirected from the Strait of Hormuz or are stuck waiting. Shipping giants like MSC and Maersk are being effective. Both have suspended routes through the Middle East. This shows tracking data from the 2nd of March showing Maersk Cincinnati, a container ship over here. And effectively, it's about to do a U-turn at the entrance to the Gulf of Oman, and it doesn't look back. It was still heading away from the area on the 4th of March. Sky News filmed footage from the UAE, a port there, on the same day, showing multiple tankers in the area. So ships are idling. Cargo is not arriving. Donald Trump might have said the war is very complete, pretty much, but until they get moving en masse again, the economic costs will continue to mount. Unless of course, Iran thinks you're on its side, in which case it looks like it's prepared to help your cargo get through.
Tom Cheshire with that report. Well, let's go to Riyadh now and speak to Faisal Abbas, Editor-in-Chief of Arab News, a Saudi English language newspaper. Mr. Abbas, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. We know that in the last week or so, we're 11 days into this conflict, the Gulf states who have repeatedly said, their leaders have repeatedly said that we have nothing to do with this war, and yet they've been dragged into this conflict. Their infrastructure targeted, civilian and residential areas hit, as well as other infrastructure. And yet, in the last 24 hours or so, we've seen Senator Lindsey Graham come out and say, states like Saudi Arabia, for example, need to get involved. They need to decide what they want to do. I just want to get your reaction, first of all, to the fact that, Saudi, like other Gulf states, have been dragged in, but also these calls that are coming in from Republican senators like Lindsey Graham.
Thank you, Yalda. It's a pleasure to be with you on the show. Look, Lindsey Graham is not President Trump. He's not Marco Rubio. He's Lindsey Graham, and he is, of course, entitled to his opinion, and he's entitled to contradict himself. He flip-flops so much that it's actually entertaining to follow his timeline or keep track of his statements. On one hand, he says he'll never set foot in Saudi Arabia. The next day, he's here signing multi-million-dollar deals. On one hand, just in January, he was saying Saudi Arabia, bunch of smart people, they're on the path of light. The next day, he's saying we're not doing enough to support this war, which, as you rightly pointed out, is not ours. I don't think anybody here takes him seriously. And if they did, I would believe the answer would be, Lindsey or Mr. Graham, be careful what you wish for. Do you really want Saudi Arabia involved in this war, putting our oil facilities at risk? Or do you want us stabilizing the energy markets? We've just heard from your reporter there earlier how much impact has the energy markets have been impacted since the beginning of the war. We're looking at oil prices possibly exceeding $150. You can't have it both ways. Yet, at the same time, as you rightly pointed out, Saudi Arabia and the rest of GCC countries have left the option to respond on the table. And everybody knows very well that the armed forces are very well equipped. There's the willingness to do it. There are allies. There's a security pact with Pakistan and with the United States that can be activated anytime. So there's no lack of resources. It's just not in the strategic interest of the kingdom at the moment to engage in this war.
Faisal, I spoke to the Qatari Prime Minister yesterday, who talked about the fact that this isn't just a regional issue. This is impacting the entire international community, certainly the global economy. He talked about gas production here in Qatar, for example, being impacted. He talked about fertilization and that leading to the food insecurity. Just from the Saudi perspective, in terms of oil, we've talked about the impact on oil prices and oil production. But from your perspective and Saudi Arabia's perspective, what sort of long-term implications do you see if this conflict does continue?
Well, everybody knows the basic economic principle of or formula of demand and supply. A shortage in supply will spike up the prices. There's no question about that. Now, Saudi Arabia will do its best, and I believe Aramco has just announced that within days it will be back at 70% of its capability. But don't forget, you have 3 Gulf countries which have gone completely or almost completely offline. We're talking about Kuwait, which has decreased 500,000 barrels, Qatar, which has stopped producing LNG gas completely. And even if they revive their operation, it will take them up to 3 weeks or even more to come back to the market. And of course, Bahrain. Look, it is very unfortunate that it seems that the only ones who know what they are doing, and I reiterate, unfortunately, are the Iranians. It is clear that their strategy is to make this war as expensive as possible for the United States and for the rest of the world, to put pressure on the United States for it to stop. On the other hand, nobody really knows what the declared mission of this war, and I'm not even sure I've heard the United States call it a war. It's been called Operation Epic Fury, military strikes. I'm not sure if they've called it a war yet, but the continuous sort of flip-flopping on what is the target makes everybody a bit anxious. The best possible outcome is to rid Iran of its ability to harm its neighbors, and whether that is accomplished with this regime or another regime, that is up for the outcome of the war to happen. We're just really not sure if that is what this war is about.
Faisal Abbas, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us live from Riyadh. You're watching The World with me, Yalda Hakim, live from Doha. Still to come on the programme, stories of abandonment from opposition sides of the conflict. We'll hear from those who fled a Lebanese village on the Mediterranean to escape Israeli rockets. While on the other side of the border, the Israelis choosing to stay in a ghost town under attack by Hezbollah. I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra al-Baghir has this report. And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist? I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Rich and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Well, as the Israeli military and Hezbollah continue to trade rockets and missiles, civilians who live on both sides of the border have fled for their safety. Our correspondents have been hearing about the ghost towns left behind. Cordelia Lynch visited Metula in northern Israel. We'll bring you her report in a moment. But first, the village of Alma al-Shab in the southern tip of Lebanon. All of its residents have now relocated to the capital, Beirut, where some spoke to our international correspondent, John Sparks.
Church bells rippled through Beirut's suburbs as a large group congregated, dressed in black. They'd come to church to commemorate the death of a man called Sami Ghaffari, who was killed in a village in southern Lebanon. They were also commemorating the death of the village itself. It's called Alma al-Shab, and its residents, some 200 Christian families, have been forced to flee from their homes. Here we see the last group out of the village, 83 people, led by UN peacekeepers.
And every day when we sleep, we don't know if in the morning we will be alive.
Was there a moment where you decided, right, we need to go now, we need to leave?
Yesterday at 12 p.m. at night, midnight.
Right.
Yeah.
What happened?
They told us they are coming inside.
The
Israeli,
Israelis?
yes. They are coming to Alma. So what we will do?
There are troops on the ground?
Yes, yes.
A cloud of sorrow hung over this assembly, as Sami Ghaffari's sister said she couldn't bear to go on. And the pain and trauma is shared by all. Nine days ago, the residents of Alma al-Shab rang the bells of the village church when they learnt that the Israelis had ordered them to leave, but many refused to evacuate their homes. We are the people of Alma al-Shab. We are a peaceful people, cried this man. But when the Israelis started to bomb the village, residents brought their blankets and their bedding and packed themselves into the hall located underneath the church.
Every day at 5 or 6, we went under the church to the hall. This is the time when the shelling and the strikes would happen all around the village. Even during the day, we could only check on our homes and come back. We couldn't do anything else.
The death of Sami Ghaffari was the final straw. Killed, say residents, in an Israeli drone strike as he tried to water his vegetables. The mayor of Alma al-Shab looked up disbelievingly. He'd lost a friend and he'd lost his village.
Tell me what's going through your mind.
Loss. We lost our land. We lost everything. We lost our dignity. Lebanon starts from Alma.
Who do you blame for this? The Israelis?
No.
Hezbollah?
No. I blame the one who put me in a geographical curse.
Stuck between enemies and abandoned by all, said the mayor.
I'm gonna show you. We have nothing except this.
He pointed to a cross and the patron saint of Lebanon etched upon his skin.
We believe in saints. We don't believe in weapons. We want to live in peace.
This is one story of many, from little more than 1 week of war. But it's created a humanitarian catastrophe that's touched every corner of this land. John Sparks, Sky News in East Beirut.
Metula in northern Israel is like a ghost town. This is the front line of the fight against Hezbollah in Lebanon. After the October the 7th attacks, most people evacuated, fearing an invasion. Their homes, businesses and a synagogue smashed by mortars and missiles. But this time, Miri feels they have the advantage. Does the fighting feel different?
The fighting feels that we're going to finish it. For once and for all, you need to understand Hezbollah is not a community group and they're not freedom fighters. They're a terrorist organization that are putting at risk not only the Israeli people, but the Lebanese people and people around the world. So if there's something that keeps us from living in peace, we need to eliminate it. The same way you eliminate a cockroach that comes into your house.
The language, the sounds, the ruins. A lot about this place feels otherworldly. Park benches overlook a vista of destruction. The rubble across the border, remnants of previous battles. And now, they're locked in another. You can hear those loud blasts. We've heard the exchange of gunfire. This is a very active zone, and Israelis see this moment not just as an opportunity to crush what they see as an existential threat in Iran, but to take over and extinguish Hezbollah in Lebanon, just over that border. It's displaced hundreds of thousands of people there, an unmatched exodus. In Kiryat Shimona, in northern Israel, people are on edge too, but some refuse to leave.
You know, it's very difficult to live like this because you don't know when the missile will catch you. Maybe in the supermarket or maybe doing, I don't know, something with the kids. So you are always in a tense.
So many people from this kibbutz evacuated after October the 7th. Why have so many people stayed this time?
We also have a part in this war. We stay here. We don't go and run away to another country, find a shelter, you know. This is the home and we stay here. And I think we help the government just being here, you know.
Whether Hezbollah survives or not, it feels like there's a lot more to break in this already scorched landscape. And it could take years, if not decades, to rebuild. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News in Metula on the Israel-Lebanon border.
Well, let's turn to the Iranian Kurdish militias who want to settle the score with a longtime foe, Iran's regime. They say they're ready to cross from their bases in northern Iraq, but need US support. So will they get it? Well, last week, our chief correspondent, Stuart Ramsey, travelled to the Iran-Iraq border. Let's just have a listen.
Jets and missiles crisscross the skies over northern Iraq as the war in Iran spreads across the Middle East. Some of the United States' strategically important bases and runways are dotted across this part of the country. These are borderlands between Iraq and Iran, but they're also home to the Kurds, an ethnic minority that straddles the border of the two countries. The small mountain towns are where thousands of Iranian Kurds flee to find safety from the Iranian regime. Amongst them, armed opposition.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Karim Parwazi is a senior political figure in one of the groups preparing to cross the border to join the American-Israeli war against Iran.
Obviously, a lot has happened in the last few days. There is a sense that the Kurds may get involved in Iran. Is that you're planning that now?
For many years, for decades, this regime has attacked us.
killed our people, and carried out acts of genocide against us. Now that the regime is becoming weaker and weaker, we see this as an opportunity to finally move towards achieving our freedom.
Stuart Ramsey with that report. Well, let's speak now to former CIA Operations Officer Sam Faddis. Mr. Faddis, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. Over the last week, we've heard the President almost flip and flop on the issue of Iranian Kurds and their involvement in this war. Initially, he said that he'd like to see them armed and launch some kind of ground invasion or be a part of that. He's now backtracking from that. Where do you think the Kurds are on this?
Well, I think if you're talking about the Iraqi Kurds, the groups, the organized groups in that Kurdish area in northern Iraq, I think where they are is they are absolutely not decided to intervene, to cross the border, to make this move, no matter what anybody is telling you, because they understand the implications of that, and they're not convinced that the regime in Tehran is anywhere close to falling. I'm sure that the folks, the various Iranian Kurdish groups that typically operate inside Iran would love it if somebody would show up, obviously, and support them. I don't think that is happening. So they may be talking a good game, but I don't really see anything real happening.
Yeah, and in terms of the Iraqi Kurds, I mean, given their position, as you say, they fully understand and grasp the implications of this. So any sort of thought that they would get dragged into this is probably, best for them, as you say, to stay away from this in this moment.
Yeah, look, they have a semi-autonomous region of their own. They have very strong defenses to protect themselves in that area, and they have prospered since Saddam went away. And intervening in this and getting dragged in risks destroying all that, losing all that. And let's not forget that a whole bunch of people, including the United States, have at various points in history showed up and said they were going to do all kinds of things for the Kurds and then walked away and left them hanging. And those guys have not forgotten that. When I operated in Kurdistan, that was a constant we had to deal with, proving your credibility because they had been lied to a lot before.
Indeed, and that is these are lessons that the Syrian Kurds have taken as well. The Iraqi Kurds, as you say, this sense of abandonment that perhaps they might get used and then later discarded.
Yeah, absolutely. From their perspective, they're looking at this and thinking, so let me guess, we're going to start another war and we're going to talk all big for a while. And then you guys are going to walk away and leave us holding the bag with the same regime still in power in Tehran, the kind of guys that will kill 30,000 of their own people for demonstrating in the street. So this is no game. And obviously, you look at Kurdish history. How many Kurds did Saddam Hussein bulldoze into mass graves after he killed them with chemical weapons? So this is not an abstract or theoretical thing to them. Surviving is everything, and it's very, very real and immediate for them.
In terms of the Iranian Kurds, what sort of strategy do you think they're thinking about right now and adopting?
Look, I think what they're hoping for is that the regime in Tehran actually collapses and then provides this sort of vacuum in which all things become possible, right? But I don't happen to believe that the regime in Tehran is going to collapse. And absent that, starting a war with these guys and then being left to face the IRGC on your own and the Basij on your own is not something anybody wants. So everybody needs to proceed very cautiously here.
Given your understanding of the Iranian regime, do you think that it was short-sighted of the administration to think that regime change would even be possible? Because when I spoke to contacts in the region, the Israelis, even before this war began, the whole idea of regime change was something that they dismissed. They said it wouldn't happen, but what they were hoping and aiming through an operation like this, or if the United States and Israel did launch an attack, it would be to, go after the missiles and missile launchers and perhaps the nuclear facilities again after what happened in June of last year. But regime change was sort of more a wishful thinking rather than an actual strategy here.
Yeah, well, look, I have thought from the beginning, and being no friend, by the way, of the Ayatollahs against whom I worked for many years, the regime is an abomination. I would love to see a free Iran. But I have thought from the beginning that the idea that we are going to cause the regime to collapse was fantasy, right? It absolutely wishful thinking. Defanging them, destroying capabilities, all of these things make sense to me. Making this into something in which the goal has to be taking down the regime has been a bad idea from the start. And I hope that we are now recognizing that and leaving that, forgetting that objective and walking away from that, because once you back these guys into a corner and make it all about survival, they will begin to set fires all over the world, and they have nothing to lose. And we're already seeing the beginnings of that, right, with attack on water desalination plants and oil fields and rumors of mining the Straits of Hormuz. So we should absolutely, I don't know how serious we ever were about regime change, we should definitely walk away from that as an objective.
Sam Faddis, really fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Next up on the programme, we've got lots more coming up. Signed and sealed, Iranian footballers are given asylum in Australia, but why did most of their team decide to return home?
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner, and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling?
I am angry.
It is an anti-woman agenda. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Are you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, our God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Sky News, get the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report, and this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist? I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
7 players from Iran's women's football team are now understood to have sought asylum in Australia, including one who refused to board a flight out of Sydney at the last minute. Before they were due to leave the country, protesters attempted to block a coach believed to be carrying the team. It was only delayed by a few minutes. The team were labelled as traitors by Iranian state TV after players refused to sing the national anthem during the Women's Asian Cup in Australia. President Trump intervened yesterday, saying that if Australia didn't take them in, the US would. All 5 of the players initially requested asylum out of fear of persecution if they returned home. Australia's Immigration Minister Tony Burke met them before signing off their humanitarian visas. Well, Zara Fakhruddin is an activist and supporter of the footballers who was at Sydney Airport when most of them departed. Zara, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. Just tell us a little bit more about you going to the airport to meet with the girls.
Yeah, I was urged to go to the airport because I knew if even given the chance, I could potentially save some of the girls' lives from the pressure and the risk they could have faced back at home.
Just tell us a little bit more about the pressures and the risks that they felt, because obviously they were out to play as part of the Asian Cup, and then of course the war broke out, and then we saw what happened with some refusing to sing the national anthem, and then in the next match they sang the national anthem. Many were saying they felt really under pressure.
Yeah, as you know, some of them had already, shown the silent protest by refusing to sing the national anthem. And as you know, and as you could have seen on regime TV, that this has been faced with a really extreme punishment, even to the execution, because it's a sign of protest against the regime if you don't sing the national anthem. They already warned them. They've been reportedly warned by the regime and IRGC that back home they'll be faced with a severe punishment.
Yes, and we know that state TV described them as traitors. We understand that initially it was 5 who sought asylum, and then that went up, I believe, by 1 or 2.
Yeah, correct. So initially 5 of them sought asylum here in Australia, in Brisbane, Gold Coast. 1 more, which it has not yet been confirmed by the Department of Home Affairs. I cannot mention the name, but one of them, the last minute refused to come out of the hotel, and she stayed back. And 2 more. Last night here in Sydney, we have given the information by the AFP, Federal Police of Australia, and also the Tony Burke, the minister, that a couple of them stayed back. They have not yet mentioned the name, so the name has not yet been confirmed, but yes, definitely more have sought asylum here in Australia.
I wonder, in your conversations with them, did they talk about concerns about their families who remain still in Iran?
Correct, yeah. Look, a couple of the girls actually expressed that they would like to stay back. They wanted to stay back here in Australia. They would like to seek asylum, but they would like to get consent from the family. They said that if I can I can't mention the name for the safety reason, but some of them, we have the voices recorded that has been sent to us that if I can get a consent from mom or dad that they are happy with me to stay, I would definitely stay. Then all the Iranian community here in Australia, we've been doing what we could do to air this voice and let the family back in Iran knows about this girl, that they seek this girl, seek your consent. And we finally been successful. We got the family to report it back to us that they are happy to stay. They actually, I have the voice recorded. They said that they want her to stay, and they wanted us to pass a message to her to let her know that mom and the brother and dad, they all want her to stay back. But unfortunately, we haven't been given a chance in Sydney Airport to see any of them or pass the message to any of them. However, we passed the message to the federal police. One of the sergeant, I personally was involved with him from 3 p.m. until 1 a.m. He confirmed that he has passed this message to customs, and the customs talked to the girls individually. I have seen it with my own eyes that the Minister of Home Affairs, Tony Burke, he was there. He gone in individually, given the chance to every single girls, apart from the minders. So the minders wasn't involved. Look, I haven't seen any of it. I just trust the Tony Burke's office, this information coming from that office, that he has been interviewing with every single one of them, giving the chance to every single one of them. Whatever decision they made this decision obviously under the pressure of what their family going through in Iran, and also the minders here in Sydney, that we have seen it with our own eyes. We have seen some of the minders, which they are very quite well known here in Sydney. They were all in there. Quite hectic, very, very emotional and hectic situation last night in Sydney Airport.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Zara Fakhruddin, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you so much. I also would like to add that what we are witnessing among Iranian at the moment around the world is the phenomenal level of unity. Millions of Iranians are coming together behind Prince Reza Pahlavi as a transitional leader for a free Iran, united in the belief that the future of country will be built on freedom, dignity, and democracy.
Zara, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, let's go live now to Jerusalem and speak to our correspondent Lisa Holland, who joins us from there. And Lisa, you've got some updates for us. There's been so much going on, and of course, multiple fronts that Israeli forces are currently launching operations and fighting on. We know that they have taken the fight to Lebanon as well, and there is some fighting on the northern border. If you can just give me a bit of an update on what's been going on.
Yes, of course, not only these intense bombardments by Israel and the United States against Iran, but also this cross-border fighting between Israeli forces continuing and Hezbollah. Now, we understand that that has come at some personal cost at the very highest level of government. A statement from the somewhat controversial far-right Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich on X this evening, detailing that his own son, who is on active service with an IDF unit in northern Israel, has been injured. Now, he said in this statement on X, the Finance Minister said last Friday, terrorists fired a mortar shell at Givati Brigade soldiers on the Lebanese border, injuring 8 soldiers. One of them is my beloved son, Binya Habron. He goes on, shrapnel penetrated his back and stomach, and he was rushed to the hospital, where we discovered the great miracle that he had been performed for us. Now, we're unsure of the latest on the condition of the son of the Finance Minister, but clearly it goes to show on a day when he was announcing billions of shekels to be diverted to the war effort against Iran and Hezbollah, the personal cost to him as a senior member of government.
And Lisa, of course, we've been speaking throughout the programme about the sort of messaging that's been coming out of Washington about the objectives of this war, what the end game is, and when it might come to an end. But just give us a sense. I was in Israel just a few days ago, and it seemed from the Israeli side that they started off with regime change, but that too has sort of fizzled to another direction in terms of their objectives.
Yes, there seems to be this slight divergence between Israel and the United States about what the end game in all of this is, and also notes of friction appear to be emerging. If we're to read into words from the Foreign Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, at a press conference which he held here in Israel with his German counterpart, when he talked about when at a time of war it's best not to reveal the timeline. Well, of course, that's completely at odds with the narrative and the ongoing commentary by the American President Donald Trump, when at first he talked about a timescale of 4, 5, 6 weeks. Then he rode back on that, said great progress was being made, then suggesting that the war could end soon, which of course is at a very confusing picture compared to his own Secretary of State for War, Pete Hegseth, who seemed to suggest that this was only just beginning. It does play to this narrative that there is this divergence between the two sides, although Israel now saying, yes, that this is not an endless war, and clearly that is a view which is shared with the United States.
Lisa, thank you so much for bringing us up to date there. Well, from me and the team here in Doha, good night for now. The world is back tomorrow from 9 p.m. Until then, you can catch up on my podcast with Richard Engel, and the wrap will be on next with Anna Botting. Good night.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter? We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to. Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.